Okay. Okay. So,
Yes, sir.
we're going to open up the public hearing. Excuse me, the subcommittee on Senate Bill 85. And let's see who we have here. Okay. So this is still wrong? This sheet's wrong? Because Representative Gibbs, you're on. After all this time, we still got.
Okay.
Right, exactly. So this, first one we're doing is insurance. Right now we're doing insurance. So I'm going to cross your name out of this one just so. And evidently. Sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, every time those notices go out, the people on the committees are switched incorrectly.
Yes, this was the last minute change we made between you and Sullivan, and somehow Carrie.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Haven't got it fixed yet.
But
Okay, so
we're both here.
We're representing Terry's not here. Representative Post. We have Porcelli. Okay, we got Hunt. Calabro. I did get a text from Representative Vincent that he's not going to be here today. Just saying. But there's not going to be any problem here. Okay. And so he's not here. And Representative Burrows is here. And this Gibbs here. So at this point, we're missing you're missing one Dem and two Republicans. So you're not on this one. So you're willing to fill in. So I'll have John because he's our official fill-in. Okay.
I got to scoot out and scoot in.
He says he was the text I got was he was sick all weekend, and it says he's on this one. Yeah.
So
This is the insurance one. Yeah. But I don't know, isn't that too late to fill? Don't you have to make that decision? You have to make that decision the day before to be filling.
Can I ask, I'll ask Slate what to do. Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to pair Vincent and Terry. Okay, they're both missing for this subcommittee, and so therefore we're only missing one more Republican, and so John will sit in for Representative Post.
Okay, I'm going to scoot out and scoot back.
Where are you going? Oh, you have to go.
Do,
Well, then you're gone. Then I'm not appointing you. I'm appointing Representative Waltz. Okay. All right. So. Okay, so for 85, we had an amendment, and that was the request for the psychologists to be added to the list, and I see that as number 14 on page 2.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Why not go ahead with just making just getting rid of the requirement for pre-authorization? Why does this need a study committee?
Okay, so as we learned in the public hearing, that the issue of the mandate of getting rid of the any requirements for approval from an insurance company is unnecessary because for all intents and purposes that has already been mandated, And that is when when we mandated that mental health parity existed that is matched to healthcare. When you show up in the emergency room or if you have an accident, there is no need to have an insurance company approve it. So the only reason we're passing this, and remember, this is just the amendment, so that's in the statute, that's in the bill. The only reason, in my mind, we're passing it because it's already occurring is that we want to make sure that anybody who thinks that they need to get prior approval from insurance company, that if they were to read the law, they would find out that they wouldn't. Not that anybody reads the law when then they're in this kind of crisis, but we want to make a statement, a message to everyone in the state of New Hampshire that if you're having a mental health crisis, you do not need to get insurance pre-approval to get care.
Further question?
Yes.
Sorry. So I have not checked the amendment against the existing version of the bill. My apologies. But so are we keeping that part of the bill that provides that if a mobile crisis unit shows up, pre-authorization is not required? Is that still
That is
in
correct.
the bill?
Yes. So just so everybody, and I know you're new, but just for everybody who's on the committee, whenever you look at an amendment, you always have to look very carefully at the very, very, very top of the bill. So it says the mill amend the bill by replacing section 3. Section 1 will be the title. Section 2 would be this mandate that we're talking about, and then section 3 was the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did actually understand that. As I said, I simply hadn't checked what Section 3 said. I had not had a chance to do that. But that's all we're taking out. We're not taking out
We're
anything
not
else.
taking
so I'm
anything
good.
out. We're adding another sentence to section 3.
Thank you.
So nothing is being deleted. Yes,
Question.
Representative Spear.
If I have let's say I have what might be called a mental, I guess, emergency.
Yes.
If I were to go to a private doctor, call up my doctor and he says, well, no, you can't go to a therapist right now. You can't go to a psychiatrist or whatever without prior approval. Is that covered by current statute?
Well, I guess let's read the language of the statute. I don't know, when somebody who is familiar with this issue would want to speak to this question of that if I just called up my local social worker and do I will this statute help them? from a mental
The
health
idea
crisis?
is that we wanted to keep folks, give them another option rather than just rush off to the emergency room.
Well, no, the idea is we don't want them to go to emergency room.
So if I were to
actually.
go to my doctor, am I still allowed by statute to get covered without prior authorization?
The old statute was you get 5 visits without prior authorization. But so why don't you state your name and
Hi, everyone. Thank you. My name is Emma Savini. I'm the Children's Behavioral Health Policy Coordinator at New Futures. We collaborated with Senator Bradley on this bill. I should note that I'm not a practicing psychologist or social worker, so my area expertise is a little limited in this section. But I will say that if you were to call your doctor and he is not providing emergency care, I don't believe that would fall under the definition of emergency services in this bill. However, the point of that section is to include mobile crisis teams, which are a new sort of system in New Hampshire. They just rolled out statewide recently with the rollout of 988. So if you call your doctor and you say, I'm in a mental health emergency, your doctor can put you in touch with the 988 mobile crisis teams, and then those services would be covered without prior authorization, to be clear.
okay? Yes, Representative Gibbs.
Okay, I'm
Are you
about to
asking me a
discuss.
question or asking her a question?
I'm actually responding to the earlier question, if I may.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, something I don't usually discuss in public. but I can tell you from personal experience that some such services are already covered for multiple visits. Some are not, but as I understand it, at least some of that is because some such practitioners don't accept insurance. But a lot of it is already covered. That's the best I could tell you, and I can't speak for every form of insurance, just the ones I'm familiar with. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Representative Purcelli.
Can you help me understand the,
Am I here?
can you help me understand the population of who this would cover? There's many different, insurance types. So would this be the individual I mean, who is going
Oh,
to
okay, good
benefit
question.
by
Yes.
this?
All right. So, what we can regulate in this committee and by statute, what we can do is we are affecting what they call the small group market and the individual market. Okay, who is not included in that? Anybody who is Medicare. Everyone who has a large employer that is federally regulated, and that is ERISA's. And ironically, ERISA, that the state of New Hampshire, state employees are under a ERISA plan. My county health plan is an ERISA plan. So we cannot mandate anything into ERISA plans, but historically, they generally, if we do pass something, they then generally follow suit. But yes, this does not cover everybody in the state.
So it's a rather small segment.
I would say it's a fifth. Yeah,
Okay.
so if you can call that about, at least a fifth
All right, good.
of the
Thank you.
population. But I mean, you have to remember Medicare. Everybody who's over 65. That's a whole nother ball of
Right.
wax.
Mhm,
And Medicaid's a different situation also.
mhm.
Representative Post is here. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Do I have a? Okay. That's not it.
I found another question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So just on I want to be clear on the funding. So we're establishing a study committee to look at some of the, where is the funding?
So that's the problem. Right now, we have this new concept of this quick action team. As you all probably have been paying attention, if you read the newspapers, the big is we don't want people who are having mental health crisis showing up at the hospital. It's a problem, the hospitals. I mean, I have to say, I firsthand, my mother was in a cardiac event, and that there was the room next door. There was someone having a mental health crisis, and she was yelling and screaming, and just no, we just want to. So that's why we have this quick action team. So the question is that we know that insurance companies are covering this quick action team, but we need to, how else of those other 4/5, how do we make sure that they're also being covered? And that's what the study commission is about. Okay.
We were done. They're as quick as we were.
Okay. Okay, subcommittee. All right, so this is the wrong one. She didn't give me that. Okay. Where is it? Okay. So, so you're off the hook now, because Representative Post is now here. Okay. So you're off the hook. We're off the hook because right now we have Terry and Vincent are being paired.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. So that means we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people here. All right. Anybody would like to make the motion of to pass on the amendment? Okay. Okay. So it's Representative Gibbs. And seconded. Okay. All right. Any discussion on the motion of the amendment number
2025H.
2? Okay. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Okay. 6-0. Okay. Representative Gibbs. Second by Representative Burrows. Moves to pass as amended. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. 6. 6 simples. Okay. All right. We're adjourned the subcommittee. All right, we'll open up the work session on the amendment to Senate Bill 98. I guess I'd start off by apologizing to everybody that you're only getting it now. I kind of hoped that we were going to get it on Friday, but the procedures and process for legislative services is, I think it was done, but then they had to reread it and they have to go through it to make sure everything is working, and that didn't happen until unfortunately this morning, given the holiday or the Memorial Day event yesterday. And they also use the budget as an excuse. So. Okay, so before I get into it, I just want to kind of set the stage for everybody understands where we are with this. We obviously have no idea whether the governor or the Senate is going to like what we have in front of us, because it's all new and improved. We do have Representative Eaton's bill that we retained, which is very similar to what this bill does. So that if whatever happens, we know that we have that action that we can then come back in September, October, rework that, and be able to have it on the House floor come January 1st, the first week of January. 544, House Bill 544. Representative Gibbs, you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Some of the words did not print out correctly. And I am looking at page 7, section 318 F7, regulation of cannabis. The first line says all, and then there's a word that starts with PU, but I don't know what that word is. And then I have a more general question, if I may. But what is that word?
Purchase. The word is purchase.
All purchase of cannabis shall be made by the commission directly.
So
Okay.
we're on page
Page
7.
7.
And on page 7, line
Line 23.
23, all retail cannabis stores shall be operated by the state of New Hampshire. The pay. Oh, you know,
A lot of the words didn't come through. I
Okay.
could tell what some of them were, but is that one supposed to be purchase?
I would. I can see that this is a mistake of the copier.
Yes.
John? I have the original. Somehow I ended up with the original and it got expanded when it got printed. If you want the original, I have it. Somehow I got it. I don't know why. And the words are all in it.
Okay, so what is that word, Carrie?
It's purchase. The word is purchase.
Thank you.
Um,
Okay. Okay,
I will have the correct ones printed.
The line one, the last word is of a person or motor vehicle. Person or motor vehicle. What's the other one was line 16?
what page are you on?
Of this section. Of this section.
What page were you on there, Chris? Ah,
Classes as required.
Okay, so you got that.
I'm assuming that's classes as required? Okay.
Also line 26.
On the same page.
No, on the first page.
Oh, it's all over, it's all through it, but a lot of them I could figure out. It was just that one. Because then I have a question, because it still says all retail cannabis stores shall be operated by the state. And then 2 paragraphs down, it says the commission may license persons who operate agency cannabis stores, and it's still confusing.
So after further review, every page is wrong because the backside, it's missing the left-hand side. It's missing numbers and names and stuff. So literally every piece of paper is printed wrong. Okay, so it turns out there's only one copier, one machine that's upstairs. Obviously the PDF is fine, so they're going to figure out what to do. But I would have to say I could not go forward with we cannot, the full committee cannot take up this bill unless we have a proper for everybody to look at.
Okay. But
So,
in the meanwhile,
yes.
may I ask a substantive question?
yes, that would be great.
Okay.
You didn't want me to talk and to explain the bill first?
I'm sorry?
You already know that I might answer your question.
Well, let me ask the question, if I
Then-
may,
okay.
and then please go ahead and explain. I would appreciate it.
Great.
Okay. So we're back on line 23, but these words came through.
Forget about the words. Just tell me what your question is.
Okay, the question, it says all retail cannabis stores shall be operated by the state.
Correct.
But then 2 paragraphs down on line 33, it says the commission may license persons to operate agency cannabis stores. That appears to be a contradiction.
Okay, that is your question. Okay.
That's my question.
All right. So what we have done here is taken what is currently existing here in New Hampshire, and that is agency stores. So I guess the first question is, anybody not know what an agency store is? Please raise your hand if you don't know what an agency store. I know Representative Spear learned about it for the first time 10 minutes ago. Does everyone here know what an agency store is?
Do I understand correctly that it is a store licensed by the Liquor Commission?
So yes, they are regulated that, and the key element is that these stores are located in places where the Liquor Commission would have put a liquor store, but because of their location, it did not make economic sense for the commission to operate that selling liquor out of that location. So what occurs in an agency store is that the Liquor Commission is in control. It's, it has a Liquor Commission computer, it has a Liquor Commission point of sale system. It has where the actual liquor is being sold. And so it is the best way I would kind of give you a figure of what they are is visualize that at some gas stations they have a Dunkin' Donuts in it, and that Dunkin' Donuts is being operated by by an affiliate, by Dunkin' Donuts or some franchisee. So there is, or Subway does the same thing. They're in gas stations. You'll see them inside located. Like every Walmart has a Subway or somebody else in there, or a Dunkin' Donuts. So imagine that's what we're doing, is that the location, these liquor stores that are inside these stores are actually the rent and the facilities and some of those costs are being operated by a third party. And so I have to admit, when the commission came back to me and said, well, what do you think, John? And I was very jealous that I had not thought of this in the first place, because the agency store doesn't have a tax. There is no tax because the liquor that's sold in those facilities is still sold by the commission. They're controlling the commission, but they're in that location. So for those of you who really wanted to have private enterprise involved in the sale of marijuana, that's what an agency store is. And so therefore it made perfect sense to take the ATCs and resolve that issue, so we wouldn't have to figure out a fee or a tax or something that how they were, like we had when the original bill where we had the 10 and then 15 and they settled at 10 and 12.5% from Ways and Means. We don't have any of that because the operations of these in these stores, it will be the Liquor Commission is operating them inside these private enterprises. Representative Spear.
So just to get it straight in my head, the Liquor Commission still operates or licenses these facilities,
Correct.
but a private individual can own it.
And on it.
Okay. You have, in one place, you have slightly different topic, possession limits, where you talk about anything over 4 ounces of cannabis in plant form and possession.
That's under the marijuana regulations that really
A
not
little later on, you talk about, so it's illegal to have more than that in your possession.
correct.
A little later on, you have a section that talks about how the police are not supposed to spend any effort whatsoever going after anyone that they believe may be operating, let me get the words. Page 9. Page 6. Yeah. No law enforcement officer employed by an agency that receives state or local government funds shall expend any state or local resources, including the officer's time, to effect any arrest or seizure of cannabis or conduct any investigation on the sole basis of activity the officer believes to constitute a violation of federal law of the office, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, in other words, you can't get arrested, but you're not allowed to have it. It seems contradictory to me.
That was having the police make an effort to go find somebody. In other words, if you were pulled over in a for speeding, and you have a joint on your dash of your car, okay, at this point that is less than 4 ounces. But if you happen to have a pound of marijuana sitting in the back seat of your car, and the cop can't fail to notice it because it reeks, then yes, they can arrest you for it.
Okay.
But they're not going to set up roadblock. They say like we do for alcohol, where we have to print in the newspaper, and that we're going to have them out there, and they're going to be stopping every car, and
So they don't do that.
That's what they're saying. Just
I
don't
see.
they can't do that. Representative Burrows.
Okay, I have a question. If I have a Dunkin' Donuts franchise, I have to do everything by the letter. I mean, every Dunkin' Donuts store is the same. You have the same donuts. They do everything the same amount of coffee, yada, yada, yada. It's laid
Right.
out the same.
Yep.
I guess my question is, if the ATCs are agency stores, do they feel that they're going to be able to run it the way that they need to run it? I'd like to ask Matt Simon what he thinks.
Come on up, Matt. Come on down.
Good morning. Thank you for the question, the opportunity to comment. For the record, Matt Simon, Prime ATC. I think we need a lot more explanation of how agency stores could work for cannabis in general before we can understand whether ATCs could serve as agency stores. And I also just want to point out the amendment in front of us is different than what I reviewed over the weekend. It actually,
Oh yeah.
on page 4, line, I'm not sure because of the print job, but towards the bottom, definition of dual use certificate, it says means a license allowing an ATC to co-locate with and operate a retail cannabis store. That's what it said in a previous version. I was under the impression that was going to be changed to agency store. This currently says ATCs could operate a retail cannabis store, which we like from a policy perspective, but plainly contradicts the language on page 1, line 29 that says all retail cannabis stores shall be operated by the state of New Hampshire. And while I'm at it, I think that same line 29 directly contradicts the language about agency stores as you've suggested. Would agency stores are licensed, they're private stores, they're licensed by the Liquor Commission, but the stores are not operated by the Liquor Commission unless I'm missing something. So if ATCs are to operate as agency stores, we have a number of questions. One, can we sell our own products that we produce? If so, do we have to sell them to the Liquor Commission and buy them back? That seems like a major impediment, particularly if you think that that may be preempted and there may not be a state-run system. With regard to selling, we would like to sell products from other companies as well. When I go to the store in Massachusetts, they sell their brand, and it's about a third of the menu is stuff that they produce. And then they have 20 different companies' products that I could also choose from. And that's the kind of market that we'd like to participate in, where we can sell our products and help create a market for products from other growers and manufacturers. So I can see how the agency store model might work with regard to selling other growers and other manufacturers' products. I don't understand how our cannabis gets from our grow facility to our stores. And I would love it if somebody could explain that before I...
Well, it's fine. As I told you before, that would be done through rulemaking between the commission and you. So if you want to have that answered, then I guess we won't go forward with this bill. Simple as that. Because I guess we have a chicken and the egg problem now. You want to know what the rules are before we pass it. We don't have, I guess all we can do is create legislative authority for the department to do a rule. But generally, we would have to pass a statute for them to make that rule. So we have a chicken and the egg problem.
Mr. Chairman, I respectfully would characterize this as a problem of contradictions in the legislative language.
So how would you fix that language? To not have this question is, will you be able to sell your own cannabis in your ATC to retailers?
At this point, I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a very contradictory piece of legislation.
I think that's perfect, that you've said enough.
Fair enough.
All right. I would guess that at this point, we can all agree this amendment is not ready to go forward. Representative Gibbs.
Thank you. This question is for you. Okay, I am not sure, honestly, about the procedure for cannabis going back and forth from the grower and the Liquor Commission. Perhaps because of that, this bill really isn't ready to go forward. Honestly, I'm not sure. But there is something that I think we can fix, and that is the language on line 29 of page 1 and the same language on line 23 of page 7, where they both say all retail cannabis stores shall be operated by the state of New Hampshire. Shouldn't that be changed to all retail cannabis stores shall be operated by the state of New Hampshire or a licensed agency store or ATC? That would seem to solve a large problem of contradiction.
But it doesn't sound like it because he wants to know the rules.
Well,
He
no,
wants to know what the rules are. So are
that's a
you saying
separate-
that one sentence that she just said would take away your question about what of the rules were necessary about how you can sell your other product?
Mr. Chairman, I think we've been clear all along that we want clarity in the definition of retail cannabis store, clarity in the definition of dual use certificate, clarity in the definition of agency store. We've provided suggested language that would clarify those definitions so that rules could be made to accommodate the intent. But I don't understand how any commission is supposed to write rules to implement a law that says two completely different and contradictory things.
Because I'm looking under the rulemaking section, which specifically says the department is going to generate a rule to allow ATCs to operate as an agency store.
And it says retail cannabis store in this
What,
amendment.
are you looking at the statute?
Looking at
I'm
the
talking about the
definition.
rulemaking statute. I'm
Looking
going
at-
back to the rulemaking statute. Yeah. So, if we want to, I guess the next question I have is if we could just correct this one sentence. Is this the only sentence anybody has a problem with? Okay.
It's two sentences with the same language in two different
Right.
places.
So if we fix those two sentences, is everybody okay with this bill? No, we understand that you and we have a couple of other Republicans who are not too crazy about the bill. Yeah. Oh, you don't like it?
The way that the process to me, I've been around for 20 years here in the State House.
Right.
And this process has been unbelievable, shady. It's just not the way we should conduct business. I don't know who's drafting these amendments, but whoever is drafting the amendments aren't part of the Cannabis Commission that was instructed to come up with legislation that we could all pass.
What cannabis commission? The one that never did anything? That's right. You want to rely on the new Senate one, right? You want the new Senate commission to take care of this?
No, there was a group that came together for a
No,
year.
they were not a commission. That was an ad hoc committee that came together, that came up
Okay,
with a
the committee.
solution. Right.
And,
And
it
that
had
was,
a lot of stakeholders,
and-
and that's the
and that
bill.
was built on the idea of private licensure.
Yes.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, the idea of the liquor commission operating the stores is
Right.
a no
Yeah,
no
they
win
can
for you.
license, but I don't think they need to operate.
Right. Okay. So I would say is that at this point, that's what this bill is. And if the committee does not want to go forward with that, then I would say we just retain the bill. Well, we don't have to, we can just go past the underlying bill and then, and we will do nothing with this other issue. And we'll take it up when we do the amendment for Eaton's bill, 540. Yeah. So actually they had their hands up first. Yes, Representative Phil.
I appreciate the concerns about process and some of the concerns about where the cannabis will be sold, but I think we need to look at the overlying issue here of cannabis legalization in New Hampshire. This is a long-standing issue, and our constituents are pretty clear of what they want to have happen on this issue, and they want legal cannabis. That we can sit here and continue to clutch our pearls over how we're going to get this done, but we need to get it done, and our constituents have told us get it done. Beyond that, there's a social justice issue here. We have people who are continually being arrested for what is, in effect, a non-crime. So we can quibble about language, we can continue to quibble about where this is going to get sold, or we can do our jobs, get the legislation passed, and actually help people who are actually being wrongfully incarcerated for this. So perhaps we can actually begin to negotiate this language and push this through, or we can let people get arrested for a non-crime.
Okay, Representative
It
Evans.
hasn't changed it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to hear from the Liquor Commission about how these agency stores might work. Is there anyone from the Liquor Commission present today?
I don't see them here today.
They weren't here last meeting either, so that's kind of conspicuous that they're absent.
They are in an awkward position that in terms of owning this legislation. And so, yes, I have asked them to help me draft it. But at the end of the day, if people are uncomfortable and want to have more details, then I guess we need to do a road trip and go visit an agency store and understand how they operate if we're going to do that. However, I'm hearing over here, not necessarily over here, I'm hearing over here someone who say they will never vote for an agency store concept.
It's
So
not just
how many
that.
people, let's just do that straw poll. How many people are adamantly opposed to an agency store concept and rather have just the private enterprise, or have the original 639? Who would rather have the 639 and not an agency store? I see 1, 2. The original bill, which had the, okay. Okay, so how many people would rather have the 6, well, you can remember the difference was 639 had that 12.5% tax. Okay, so how many people would rather have 639 than agency stores? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, it's pretty close to 10-10, ain't it now?
But, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The question at this point, I think, is not would we rather have 639? Yes, I'd rather have 639, but would I rather have this or nothing? Because the
Right,
Senate
well, it-
killed 639.
Right. Well, actually, I'll be the pain in the ass on this one. If we don't pass agency stores next year, 639 will have to literally wait for a whole nother legislative election cycle for that possibility to occur. And it would have to, as from what I can see from this little lowly position as a state representative, that would mean that there has to be a radical change in the Senate, and there would have to be a change in the governor.
Well, that's a good idea.
Okay, but that's what you're betting on. Otherwise, do you feel like Representative Phillips says, is let's get something passed?
This isn't the right bill. We should make sure that people that have been arrested that can be annulled. That should be a separate bill. Maybe it could be amendment to another bill that we passed or retained, but this is not the bill. If we have to wait 2 more years, we have to wait 2 more years. We wait 2 more years. This is not the right way to do it.
Got it. Representative Gibbs, yes.
Thank you. I'm with Representative Filio. Let's get something passed.
Okay. Representative Burrows.
Thank you. My feeling is that given what happened with 639 and the way it went down, I don't trust a commission to get this right next year.
Well, the commission that's been created by the Senate,
No, I don't trust it.
no, you don't have to trust it. You know full well they will come out with this bill
Okay,
as
but
we're
what-
looking at it
but
right
what
now.
But what I want to say is, given that, I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, but I think that commission will be stacked to get it the way where they want it to go. And given that, I say if we can get this bill language either now or retain it and do it then, I think that's preferable to letting some commission of who knows who is going to be on it.
Well,
get it right.
I would assume the commission will solve this ATC question.
Bunk.
They'll clarify that language. I mean, think about it. That gives us lots of time. I mean, we'll have the time.
I would
We can
prefer
fix
I
all
have
that
more trust
language.
in this committee than in a commission.
Right. So we would then be able to take it up in September but at the point, what I'm hearing right now is the committee is split on having agency store versus having the private enterprise,
That's not
639.
the split. That is not the split.
It's not your split.
No, the
You
split
would
was-
vote for agency,
if
you would vote for
fix
agency
this bill,
store
you
if we could fix this
and
bill.
Got the definitions right,
Right.
I could live with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take a straw poll. If we sit on this bill, this amendment till September and fix it, how many people would be willing to vote for it then? It's a straw poll. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And being the fix is the language. 7, 8, 9, 10. How do we have it? Okay. Well, we're close enough with that one, I guess. Yeah, as you all know, I don't have any compelling reason to pass anything because I like killing bills. So, so at this point, if we want to just sit on this until September and see how we can do it, and overcome that 10, but even then, we're not really fixing anything, because there'll be plenty. There's another 10 of you which are not going to be happy with that. But we are missing. We're missing two members of the committee. So it's going to be tight, but we can certainly.
I think jeopardizes the.
Pull your
ATC.
microphone.
This,
Okay.
this amendment jeopardizes the ATCs, and we work.
No, we
really hard.
agree that this amendment is no good. We agree this amendment as it is no good because it still has in the statute, it doesn't say that ATCs are going to be in these agency stores right up front. Okay. And that we agency stores want to know what the rules are on how they're going to be able to operate. Right?
Right. I want to know before I vote on a bill.
But would
I
you
don't
ever
wanna-
vote for ATCs as agency stores? Or would you rather have the original 639?
The original 639.
Right. No, and that's the question is that a black and white decision? I mean, in other words, there are some people here, I saw Representative Fax and Spear say that they like 639, but they would treat a compromise being this agency store as long as it was clear what the rules are for an agency store, that an ATC as an agent is an agent, that you really clearly have a visual of what exactly how they operate. Representative Sullivan.
Why can't we do a bill that addresses the very legitimate concerns that
Speak
Representative-
closer to the mic.
Why can't we do a bill that represents or that addresses the very clear concerns that are very legitimate about people getting arrested for them? Like we can, I don't see a reason why we can't legalize something and then figure out how we're going to regulate and sell it in a different bill. Like we could do that. I don't.
That's a different committee. That was in criminal justice.
Okay, so if that happens, then we don't have to rush this part of it. We're just trying to.
Matter of fact, that whole sections, all of that is just they're saying, oh well, now that you've now make it legal to sell it, then we've got to cover that material. But that is true. That's all there. That's in criminal justice. And whatever happened to that bill? Did the Senate table they tabled that bill? Anybody know what happened to that criminal justice bill? Did they just kill it? What? They haven't taken it up yet. The Senate hasn't taken it up yet? Yeah. Okay. So that's still, but yes, that is a separate issue. I agree with you. And has nothing to do with this bill. And frankly, right from the get-go, I didn't even want to have that in this bill at all because I thought it cluttered up the issue. But it just that it was a chicken and the egg kind of problem.
And even, I mean, clearly, I don't really love this bill, but in this bill, I'm still curious. Why do we have any sort? I mean, it seems like it's still illegal to have, say, 4 ounces of cannabis or more. I mean, if we legalize something, why is there a limit? I mean, once we legalize beer, we don't make I can have 12 kegs in my truck driving home from the store if I wanted to.
Good point.
I mean, why is it still seems illegal at some level? So I don't, just another thing in this bill, which I think is another weakness.
For the libertarian spirit you might have, there is nothing when it comes to regulating, of licensing or regulating marijuana is ever going to be truly live free or die. It's always going to be highly regulated.
I understand. I'm fine with the regulations with respect to, the same way with alcohol, you have to be 21 to buy it. You can't drink with it, drink and drive, whatever. But like here, it sounds like if somebody happened to go to a store and it was all on sale and they bought a bunch to stock up and they could be arrested because they had more than 4 ounces. I'm just curious what is the logic behind this
Well,
section?
if I were to compare it to the liquor, don't ever buy more than $10,000 worth of booze because you will be reported because of the cash transaction, the size of the transaction. So you will notice that, and this has been an issue in the past years with people who from out of state. I saw one at South Carolina license plates, and they were loading up their minivan, and then feeling it when I drove by with my somewhat state plates and quickly threw a towel over all cases and cases of Hennessy
But is
that
that
was in the back
illegal?
of their car.
You get reported. Is it illegal?
Well, let me put it this way. The illegal aspect of that is taking it across state lines.
Okay, that's fine. But like we're saying, a New Hampshire resident who has more than 4 ounces of cannabis could theoretically be arrested. It's not actually legalized, right? So I mean, I think that I get your analogy, but it's not really analogous because that's like taking something across state lines to a state where apparently that might be illegal to buy it here and travel it in. But like, if I wanted to go buy 4 ounces, I would be I don't know if it's criminal. I don't know if it's like a
That is
felony.
absolutely true. You can buy as much Hennessy as you want right here in New Hampshire
Right, and not
as a
get in
New
trouble.
Hampshire
So
resident.
why do we have that?
Except if you do over 10,000, you have to be. They report you to I don't know the Federal Reserve. You get
Okay,
reported the fact
so
that
it's not
you
really
did this cash
But
transaction.
that's not
or-
really analogous then to this.
That's
language.
true. It
That's
is
what
a
I'm asking.
side- it's a
Why? What is the
sidebar to that
motivation of
issue.
this?
That's
Do you know
true.
the insight into why we have that? That's what I'm asking for. Is for you to explain to me why we have this.
I
Seems like we
just
could still
like
be
we have the
arresting New
limit
Hampshire
on
citizens.
20 milligrams of a dose.
What's that?
20 milligrams dose.
No, I'm talking about.
So I'm just saying that we have other regulations that have limits. Okay, like we have a limit on how when you buy this stuff, how much you can buy. I mean, other states. I remember if I told you what I've learned about Massachusetts is that you can only buy up to 100 milligrams a day.
Okay, I'm just saying. So that's you can limit how much somebody could buy, but if they're, what happens if somebody is caught with more than that? Does this bill explain this? I was only able to get to page 8 before we started talking about it. So you just got it, but like, wow. Can you explain to me what happens to somebody if you're caught with 20 grams of concentrated cannabis or 4 ounces of cannabis? Like, what happens to that person? Are they arrested, which is a problem that we're all concerned about?
I would say that right now, the way the Massachusetts law is, I do not know whether they go after the individual who was able to get more than 100 milligrams, but I'm telling you that they absolutely limit the retailer.
I'm talking about in New
But
Hampshire.
you're looking at the legal. You know what? If you said to me, let's just get rid of all that legal stuff and pass it in a separate bill, that's all fine and dandy. But we can't pass this bill until that one's been passed, and the Senate has not signed it. Right? I mean, the bill's not passed yet. And I will venture to tell you, if you think that the Senate would ever pass a bill that you can have any numerous amount of marijuana, pounds of marijuana in your car, it ain't happening.
I agree. I'm just trying to say it doesn't actually legalize it because you could still get arrested for having some quantity. We don't know because you don't know what would happen to this person either. It sounds like in my scenario, you can't tell me if that person goes to jail, if they get a fine. We don't know what happens to that person. It's not in this. Is that where would that be? Would like
It doesn't
the state
say
police
it's
create
a
a rule?
felony. It doesn't say Class A or Class
I don't
B
see felony in here.
I have to admit, I never spent much time looking at that section because that's nothing this committee works on. That's a criminal justice issue, and
It just seems weird to legalize something, but it's really not legalized.
gotcha. All right, Representative Gibbs again.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know what's going to happen with that other bill in the Senate. None of us do. And I recognize that the limits on the amount are a political compromise because I think that may make it more palatable to some people. But regardless of the precise limits on the amount, and personally, I would say have no limits on the amount, but that's probably a political non-starter. But since this bill is before the committee, regardless of what the Criminal Justice Committee does or the Senate does, couldn't we just strip out the part that says it's legal to have up to X amount of marijuana? Just strip that part out and say you can't get arrested for that, and the police won't search your car because they smell marijuana, which is in the current amendment. Since this bill is before this committee, if we just strip out that part and leave out all the complications about the dealerships, could we do that?
So I would assume under our current law now, you would have possession issues. I mean, I don't know what the possession law is. It's probably a pretty low number. So stripping that out would leave the current law that you can't possess it. So
No, strip it out and keep it. In other words, just pull that part out, the part that a lot of us want, okay? So people stop getting arrested at least up to, and maybe 4 ounces is too small, maybe it should be higher, I don't know. But because people are still getting arrested. And while this wouldn't stop everybody from getting arrested, at least it would stop a lot of people from getting arrested.
I like that idea.
Right. So that would not come to us. That's
it's
not
already
our.
here.
No,
that's-
but
I
it
can take
is-
it out of
it's
this
in
bill.
front of
Yes,
us.
we can take it all completely out of this bill.
No, I think.
No, I want
it's in
to
the
take it out of
reverse.
this bill and keep it because it's in front of us now.
No, we
Can we
would. It
take
would.
out the
It
other
goes to
stuff?
criminal justice. It's not our issue. It's not our issue. Sean.
So if we were to take that portion out of the bill, I think we need to legalize cannabis, because if you were to purchase cannabis at the stores without eliminating the prohibition on cannabis, everybody who were to purchase it at an agency store would immediately commit the crime of possession. We can't just pass the legalization on this committee because we're not Crim J. However, it sounds like an excellent floor amendment if somebody wanted to bring that floor amendment at the next session. And I'd be happy to co-sponsor that with somebody if somebody wanted to bring that floor amendment. Why I think there is that limit up to four ounces is that we actually place limits on possession of a lot of controlled substances, and I think this would be one example of a narcotic controlled substance. Whether you think that classification is legitimate or not, I think is questionable, but we do place that limit on a lot of different substances, and so that this is just another example of that. Granted, alcohol arguably is worse than cannabis. We don't place a limit on that, but there are arbitrary limits all over the place in the law. This is just another one of those, and I think that we're probably going down a sinkhole that we don't want to go down, because we've now spent 10 minutes arguing about 4 ounces, and we're probably could spend another hour doing that. But if somebody wants to do a floor amendment with me, I'd be happy to do that. But this is not the committee to start doing criminal justice, because then we're going to become the Criminal Justice, Consumer Protection, and Commerce Committee, and I think we have too much work to do as it is.
Yeah. Okay. So I do have the record here. So the bill to decriminalize marijuana was originally voted out of the committee as inexpedient to legislate, 11-9. They were overturned on the House floor, 210 to 160, voted to turn down that motion. The pending motion of ought to pass did pass by voice vote, so we can say 210 wanted decriminalization and 160 didn't. And when it got over to the Senate committee reported inexpedient to legislate, and Senator Gannon last Thursday, the 18th, moved to lay it on the table, and roll call vote, unanimous, 24 to zip. Decriminalization was laid on the table.
What was the bill number on that?
It's House Bill 360.
Thank you.
Okay. So I guess let's just put that aside as a sidebar of discussion. So what I'm hearing is that this committee feels this bill is not ready for prime time, and this amendment, and that when we go into exec session in 15 minutes, that we will not discuss this amendment whatsoever. We will just simply take up the original underlying bill, Senate Bill 98. So, because this is just an amendment, so when we get into our executive session, 15 minutes from now, 11 o'clock, we will simply vote to send Senate Bill 98 unamended to the House floor.
Will we make any effort to fix this?
So this will be done. Basically, as you remember, we have a retained bill that is very similar language, concept. So we will then work on that bill. And obviously we'll try to diligently solve the ATC problems, but unfortunately there will be members who won't vote for that anyways, and you're entitled to your opinion. But it does look like it was close that people would want to go with that. But at this moment, if we were to follow our committee rules, I would say that even we get down to this bill, if it's going to be 10-10 come October, then we will interim study it. Representative Gibbs.
So if some of us had come forward with a new amendment to SB 98 that essentially kept only the parts that said, "Thou shalt not be arrested for cannabis," this committee would not have taken that up.
That's it. Interestingly, we could take that up if you were just to remove everything else and take that issue. And what would happen is if we had passed that bill, okay, it would go on to the House floor in January. And at that point, the speaker will then rule that the bill goes on to criminal justice after it leaves this committee. And I would venture to say the criminal justice committee vote will be inexpedient to legislate 11 to 9. And then we will overturn it on the House floor and pass it. And we'll send it over to the Senate. And the odds are the Senate will kill it.
But we could not take it up so that it could be brought forward to session this June.
If you want to do a floor amendment, and I think Representative Phil said he'll help you with that, there's nothing stopping you guys to take up any bill, or if you want to take up this one, then we can leave it on the regular calendar rather than put it on the consent calendar, and then offer up that amendment and try again this year. But I would say you're probably not going to be too successful when it gets over to the Senate side.
So you're suggesting that the best thing to do is to continue working on HB 544. That was the other House bill.
Eaton bill, yeah. But in terms of taking it out of Eaton's bill, which I assume it's in there, I don't have it in front of me. I assume it's in there. We can certainly remove it completely from the bill. But that will be the first reason why someone will use why they would vote against it. That say is great. You make
I
it legal to
wasn't- I
sell
wasn't
marijuana, but you
suggesting-
can't carry it. You can't have it.
I wasn't suggesting remove it and get rid of it. I was suggesting remove it, keep it, and get rid of everything else. So people could go and buy marijuana in Massachusetts, come back to New Hampshire, and not get arrested.
That is not going to pass in the Senate.
I don't think there's a lot of people who are really excited about that concept. But I think that if you believe in it, you're absolutely have every opportunity to do that. But I don't think you're going to get that vote out of this committee because that's just not our billywhack. I mean, that's not what we do. This bill is not here because of that issue. Representative Burrows.
I would just say the one reason that the floor amendment might be a good idea, despite the fact that it's going to fail, is to remind people why these bills are dying, and to remember that in 2024. I know, don't look at me that way.
Well, I'm saying the bill is dying here because we can't agree on whether we want to have the liquor commission have agency stores or have private enterprise.
I understand that.
private
Let the
licensing.
public know, though. Let
The
the
bill's
public
not
know.
dying here. It died in the Senate. We had a bill that we all agreed on here, or most of us
Right.
agreed on here.
Right.
So that's not on us. I mean, I don't know what I think about that strategy, but I get the point that.
Right.
it's
Well,
a
people are
reminder
going to
that
say,
the
"Is
problem
gee, we
the
heard the
other
governor was
favor."
all set, and why didn't you guys come forward with what the governor wanted?"
Because it's, well, we can go down that road if you want.
I don't know. I keep hearing my name. I mean, I get all week my name is popping up about this, but at any rate, yes, Reverend Phillip.
Are there any very basic, unctuous bills coming up on the consent calendar that you would know of that would be ripe to be pulled off the consent calendar, say to have a floor amendment put right onto them?
The calendar hasn't come out yet.
Well, anything that we sent up on a consent?
Well, like I said, we had that other liquor bill which we end up retaining, and so I mean, in terms of you're trying to find something germane, only the Senate. I mean, the only thing you can add on the House side at this point would be the language of three. What was this? 344? Yeah. So because it passed the House, it has germaneness. So you could actually attach that to any bill. It doesn't matter what bill it is. You can attach that to a bill. and but you do risk that the underlying bill might die.
Well, if I'm looking for something pretty unctuous, that if it were to die, it wouldn't be the end of the it wouldn't be the end of the world.
You
for
would
it to-
sometimes pick one that it would, yeah, there's no
Yeah.
big deal. And that part of the reason why I chose this bill to be the one we took this issue up on, because, you know, it's not an earth shaking. This is a pretty inside baseball type bill. Representative Walsh.
Maybe this keeps dying because, contrary to what my colleagues say, the citizens of New Hampshire do not want this to become New Hampshire to become Massachusetts, Maine, or Vermont. And I wish I had my pearls on so I could clutch them while saying this, but I'm sure that everyone that I've talked to, emailed, spoken to, reached out to me, thanking me for fighting this, is absolutely against the legalization of a narcotic drug in New Hampshire, no matter how it's put in any bill, in any form, whether it's sold by New Hampshire state liquor stores or agencies or ATCs. So I just thought I'd make that clear. Thank you.
Okay, Representative Ammon.
Just question of germaneness. If there was a floor amendment,
Speak to the mic closer. If there is a floor,
so yeah, the other bill is 360, so we could attach that as a floor amendment and it would be germane because it passed the House. But the language in this amendment, we had a public hearing, a non-germane public hearing.
Correct.
Right? And so a subset of this language would still be attachable to SB 98 because we had that public hearing. Is that correct?
no, it's not about public hearing. It's about adding a non-germane amendment to a bill.
Right.
So yes, theoretically, it had to be a bill that passed the House already.
I'm talking about the language in Amendment
In
2044.
right. In other words, you were saying is if
This has already been ruled germane.
to Senate Bill 98, we could do that right now. We could add that line. We could add 344 to 98. Or yes, you're right. I would say and again, sometimes Paul Smith surprises me, but because we had a non-germane and that language was in the original amendment, that if we had this Senate Bill 98 ought to pass, it would be open to amendment. And then you could bring in that amendment, that 344 amendment,
360.
360 amendment. Yes. So 360 could be added to this bill, which is what I guess what you were looking for, Representative Gibbs. You could add it to this bill. Okay. Any more discussion on the amendment to Senate Bill 98?
I just wanted to follow up with what Representative Walsh says about marijuana being a narcotic. I think I'm just skimming through, there's a lot of organizations that would disagree with you, including the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, the National Institute of Health, and many others. So that's really in dispute. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
We're almost to the exec session, so let me just finish up a little housekeeping here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
excuse me, may I also follow up very briefly?
Of course.
Thank you. My apologies to Representative Walsh. The last time I smoked marijuana was 51 years ago. But I do remember it. And I can say that as a hospital patient, I have occasionally been prescribed narcotic drugs. And I remember vividly the effect of those. And I can tell you that from personal experience that the effect of marijuana and the effect of narcotic drugs that I took by prescription have absolutely no resemblance whatsoever.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Okay. So right now, the subcommittee, liquor subcommittee, let's see, Representative Batusek, second by Representative Burrows, moves to pass the bill, House Bill 98, unamended. Okay. Any discussion on the motion of ought to pass on the Senate Bill 98 unamended? Yes.
Can you just remind us what the original bill was?
What the original bill was for delinquent account holders, the fee would go from right now it's $100 to $250, or not fee, that the if the delinquency exceeds, then it has to be reported to the commission. Pretty inside baseball issue. No. Okay, is the question clear? All right, this is just the liquor committee. So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're not on it. Okay, it passes 6-0. And we're done. And I guess it's 11 o'clock. Okay. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, one clock says 10:59, the other says 11:01. Do we average the clocks here? Thank you. That's a rhetorical question.
There's actually an answer to this one. Yeah. See, that clock
Yes.
is in science and technology.
Oh, that's for the public.
This clock
It's for the committee.
is commerce's clock. So don't ever care what that clock says. We only care what this clock says.
So we're behind them.
So
Yeah.
we're right on time for open up the exec session. And we have 2 bills to accept, the exec here. And we have, okay, start out with Senate Bill 85. Okay. And let me so you have your exec sheet, or do I have your session? Here it is. Okay, there it is. Okay. So Representative Burrows, seconded by Representative Patusek, moves ought to pass on amendment number 2025.
Is that on 85?
That's on 85. And Representative Burrows is recognized to speak to our motion.
I don't have the original bill
Yeah,
in
it's
front
just,
of me.
it's adding the psychologist to the commission.
Okay. I'm sorry, do you have the bill right in front of you? Okay.
It was line,
Okay, so we are voting to amend SB 85 by oh no, we're not going to do
not
that.
replacing, you're just adding on page 2, line 10,
Okay.
14 in parentheses.
Okay, we are voting to amend SB 85 so that we can add a representative from the New Hampshire Psychological Association appointed by that organization, and
That's it.
that's it. Okay, all right.
Any discussion on the motion about to pass on the amendment? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Representative Ammon,
Yes.
Osborne. Patusek.
Yes.
Carey.
Yes.
Post.
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Michelli.
Yes.
Paxton. Walsh.
Yes.
Burrows.
Yes.
Herbert. Bollier, yes. Maclear.
Yes.
Vincent, Calabro.
She's here.
Representative Calabro.
Yes.
Tilio,
Yes.
Gibbs,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
and Chairman Hunt.
Yes. 19 to zip. Representative Burrows, seconded by Representative Patusek, moves ought to pass as amended on Senate Bill 85. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
This is on the bill as amended.
Yes.
Representative Ammon,
Yes.
Osborne. Tuesday. Yes. Terry,
Yes.
Post,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Richelli,
Yes.
Paxton. Walsh,
Yes.
Burrows,
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Bollier, yes. Maclear,
Yes.
Calabro,
Yes.
Tilio,
Yes.
Gibbs,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Chairman Hunt.
Yes. Okay. Do you want me to leave this on the regular calendar, or to add, you guys do a floor amendment to it, or?
That's the other bill.
Oh, that's right. This one's, all right. That's true. Okay. All those in favor of placing Senate Bill 85 on the consent calendar, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved unanimously. Okay. Now we'll take up Senate Bill 98.
That was Burrows for the report.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Who would like to write the majority report on this bill? Dan, you should write the majority report.
You're gonna have to give me a day or two.
A day or two, okay. Yeah. All right. Representative Belo, seconded by Representative Thaxton. Just you don't have to write it. You don't have to write a blurb. Okay. Moves the Senate Bill 98 to be ought to pass with no amendment. Any discussion on the motion of ought to pass?
Only that we're not putting this on the consent calendar.
Okay, we will leave this on the regular calendar. Okay, if the motion's clear, the clerk will call the roll on ought to pass.
Representative Ammon,
Yes.
Osborne, Patusek. Yes. Terry,
Yes.
Post,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Richelli,
Yes.
Paxton. Walsh. Burrows,
Yes.
Herbert,
No.
You're voting on whether we will raise the reporting requirements for an on-premise licensee. We did it by subcommittee. This is now the full committee vote. There's no amendment.
No amendment. Without
It was an amendment.
When was the amendment?
That was a different bill. That was Senate Bill 85. This is now Senate Bill 98. Okay. Well,
I was confused, so yes.
okay. So, right, and Representative Herbert? Representative Herbert, you would like to vote yes on Senate Bill 98. Okay, good. We're in the voting mode. Okay. All right.
Maclear,
Yes.
Vincent, Calabro,
Yes.
Tilio,
Yes.
Gibbs,
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
Sullivan. Yes. Chairman Hunt.
Yes. Okay, and we will leave this, who's the one?
Wash. Wash.
No, she switched. She
Oh,
switched.
okay.
Oh, she did. Okay.
So it's 19 zip, but we will leave this on the regular calendar so that a floor amendment could be introduced to it. And with that, we will end our executive session and see you all in September. So actually, the one other thing is, for anybody who has opinions about this underlying bill, would you please email me your suggested corrections? For the amendment to Senate Bill 98, your suggested corrections in Senate Bill 98. And theoretically, you have been sent the PDF. You got the PDF, so you can look to that and refer to that PDF.
I will send you anything I can come up with.
Okay, thank you.